Okay, so let's get into this. So it was 6 a.m., beautiful morning. He started to cast out and caught a few fish straight away. He was super happy. He was like, yay, finally, I'm back into my happy place. This is good. He said it took 10 to 15 minutes in and he heard a twig snap. Didn't worry about it, like the dude's been in the bush forever, right? He's a construction worker, he's a fisherman, but he also used to train racehorses. So he said he took a paddle and then he heard something massive stepping in the bush. He goes, I know the sound of a large 400 to 500 kg racehorse in the bush. He said, we used to take the horses out into the bush all the time and teach them not to freak out, right? So he knows what it sounds like when a 400 to 500, half a ton horse animal is walking through the bush, traipsing through the bush. He says this creature was bigger than a horse and bigger than a large kangaroo. He said it was definitely over 400 to 500 kilos. He said he stopped paddling and the creature stopped stepping. It mimicked his movements. He said he realized he was being stalked, and then he realized it was on the same side as his ute. So he goes nearly 1K from the ute, but he still couldn't see it in the bush. He said he figured he'd have to go down to town where there was loads of people. He saw this black thing in the bush. He knew it wasn't something that should be there. He took some photos and then he paddled down a few hundred meters down the river until he realized it was gone and it wasn't following him anymore. He said he stopped and he pulled over to the bank to have a rest and a cigarette. And he pulled out his phone and he checked out the photos that he took. He said initially he thought it was a 7-foot dog, and it was a dog in the tree line that he took these photos of, and I've got these photos to share with you as well. He said he thought it was about 7 foot, right? He said a few days later, jumped back in his truck and left, and that was fine, not a problem. A few days later, him and his mates went back to measure the bank at the location, and he found that where he took the photos from, there was a massive drop in the bank. And he realized that this thing must have been more like 10 foot.
Wow.
He said there was no trees or branches that he could have been hanging off. He said he had a long snout and pointy ears, and the pictures of it looked like a black Alsatian German Shepherd. Yeah, dog.
Wow.
Dog. Absolutely mental. Yeah, absolutely mental. So that was his last encounter. So since then, he's gone on to do some, a fair amount of radio conversations and tell his story and that sort of stuff. He's published his photos, and it's mental. It's really, really mental.
Yeah.
And so many connections between Yowies, Bigfoot, Dog Man, that mind talk, that telepathic kind of communication. So it takes this idea that they're now supernatural beings versus biological earth-dwelling creatures.
So here to add into that, there's a theory that's picking up a lot of ground here, is that they're lab grown. And so this guy named Joe Barger, he shot a 10-foot tall dog man in the Manatees National Forest in northern Michigan up here. He was a truck driver. He was trying to come in his window to get him. He got stopped like 6 months later by a state trooper and the Department of Homeland Security. The feds pulled up and sweated him down and said, "You shot our asset." That's what they told him. And they took his gun and they said, "Hey, look, we can make your life real difficult." So for you, you should go study the Joe Barger story, right? And in the United States, and you know why it makes sense. What year did this take place?
Subscribe now and turn on the notifications to join us on this extraordinary journey into the unknown.